Cheers, and welcome to our Fireside Philosophy on the Voluntary Virtues Network. I'm Steve, and why don't you guys just introduce yourselves tonight?
I'm Christy.
John.
I'm Patrick. I'm here totally against my will.
We have a man with a gun over there pointed directly at Patrick. You can't really see the laser sight right now, but it's there. And I'm Mike, of course.
It's a infrared.
Right.
Well, I wasn't even thinking infrared. I'm just saying we got a guy who's a dead shot who works for like the Mossad or something. You know.
I just want to say that the camera adds like 15 pounds.
You just gotta put your
case.
shoulders back a bit. You know, that's all you gotta do. Just put your shoulders back a bit. You know, nobody will know.
Today I'm drinking Oktoberfest by Karl Strauss, 5%. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good Oktoberfest. I think Oktoberfest pretty much tastes like an Oktoberfest, but
What does an Oktoberfest taste
like
like?
this.
It tastes like Germans gassing Jews.
Woo! Woo! Yeah! we went there. I wasn't ready for that. That was like, what are we in, like a minute in? I didn't feel that one coming for a mile. That was like a bad train.
I have notes, so I'm just saying. I have notes.
Somewhere on a cocktail napkin before he got here, Patrick planned that out.
I didn't plan it out. My superiors planned it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
Patrick's the resident Fed in our group.
Can you see? I just let my hair grow just long enough to make me look like an
and
anarchist.
a week beard right there for like week, maybe 2 weeks. You know, it's just enough to get incognito. Yeah.
Oh, and I think we need to have a moment of silence for the beer that was lost tonight.
Yeah, there was a bottle of beer that hit the floor. Yeah.
Who killed the beer?
It wasn't me.
I'm almost kind of thinking
Your
about
bottle crash. That's all I got.
Okay. Nobody. No offense.
I'm thinking about like a rule for the future.
No pointing fingers here.
Okay.
You drop a beer, you can't be in the podcast. Should that be a rule? You break a beer. It's all right. You're not in the podcast today. You drop beer. Yeah.
That's why Dick Cheney's not here tonight.
Hunting accident.
He was in the green room and then he dropped a beer and we said, "I'm sorry, Cheney, you can't be here." Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Your time is up.
Yep.
Because we're authoritarian assholes.
Mm-hmm.
On that note,
On that note.
we're doing the nature of authority tonight. From what
That's
I
right.
understand.
I'm going to be talking about the nature of authority.
I have 3 kids. I can talk a lot about the nature of authority.
All right.
That's good. Because we got at least 25 minutes to fill.
So when we're talking about the nature of authority, I'm kind of thinking of that as being very broad, and I like it to be broad. So,
I like broads too.
I mean, fair enough. Likewise, I mean, yeah, you know,
Broads,
I mean, my
guys,
grandpa used to
whatever.
say that all the time, but usually only if he was cut off in traffic. But, but so
He has Jewish writers, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna bring it back, you know.
But so nature of authority. Are we talking about like? Do we want to go on like the history of who's the first guy to put like some like gnarly with maybe a couple leaves still on their branches woven together and said, "This is my crown. Listen to me," or are we going to go the psychological route? And I'm saying like anybody can kind of pick either one of those two or a third or a fourth direction. That's kind of what I'm looking at it.
I'm talking about Neil Armstrong.
Okay.
What about Neil Armstrong?
Yeah. Now I'm on a loop. That was a
brought it
right
out.
angle right
Now
there.
you need to-
Let me just say that I'm drinking Jumping Cow Amber Ale.
Jumping Cow Amber Ale. Okay, all right. Whoa. You almost got Dick Cheney'd right there. You almost.
I just baptized my iPod. You know what I'm
That
saying?
was
For the homies.
yeah, for your lost homies. Yeah.
John, why don't you tell me what you think about it? What you think about the nature of authority?
Yeah, so I was coming at thinking from the psychological aspect. That's what jumps out at me first. You know, is looking at it from the psychological perspective, where we have this impulse to organize under the premise of authority, or vesting certain people with rights that we don't have, and that's the way that we on Earth generally are geared to do right now, through habit or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think it's time to change that.
Why?
Well, let's start with
It's working so well.
It's working so well.
Right?
Humanity's never been healthier, as a matter of fact. We've never had such a stable population number. Everybody's happy. There's no reason anybody would possibly want to change what's going on in the world.
no
you know?
poverty or debt.
No poverty, no debt, no ability to annihilate half the planet with the push of a button. None of that, you know? Like, pretty stable, right?
I think it starts with parenting. Like in the caveman.
Absolutely.
In the caveman, really, it's like, and I'm not so sure it was. I think you wanted to keep your children safe, so
Yeah.
you made yourself. I'm trying to look at myself, the cave woman. Made myself appear to be the one with authority. Like, don't do that because I know better, type of thing. For your children, for the children's sake. And I think there's.
I don't know about
You
that.
don't think so?
Well, as I've known people who've traveled the world, and I've traveled the world, and I knew these people who spent some time with a tribe in Papua New Guinea. And I understand this is the same with a lot of more primitive cultures, where by the time you can walk, sure, your parents are still taking care of you as far as providing for you and things like that, but you're largely on your own, learning what you need to learn, and then by 12, 13, you're a fully functioning member of society.
So I learned authority? I mean, that was something.
Oh, absolutely.
Thing that I learned? Okay.
I just
I'm
don't.
open to that.
All I'm saying is I don't think it started that far back.
Okay. All right.
Maybe 10,000 years ago, with the advent of
Lords.
Right. Yeah.
If for instance, the Lord said do this and you didn't do it, and He put you on a cross or cut your tongue out or something like that, then maybe parents, to protect their children, would sort of mimic the Lord.
Right.
You know, like I don't want my child to be on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost kind of look at it as maybe from a more historical perspective, and by the way, I'm going to have to accredit this to Ben Stone. And if anybody knows Ben
Bad
Stone
Quaker.
better, Bad Quaker Ben Stone. If anybody knows Ben Stone better than I do, or if Ben Stone is watching this, please contact one of us here, because you put an article on your website a while back about
on Jericho.
Yeah.
the city of Jericho, and that they found a very small, prehistoric, early man sort of fortification. Now, this fortification was not big enough to house the entire population of the city of Jericho, however small
the
it may
area.
however small it may have been at the time.
farming area.
Yeah. So, obviously, that fort was meant to protect the people who were occupying the fort. So the theory goes that it was some wandering band of marauders that decided to camp out there and come up with some sort of scheme of, we'll keep you guys safe from the other wandering bands of marauders if you give us X amount of money per,
So much
crop or
percentage of
something.
your
Yeah.
crops. And
Yeah.
Then we won't raid your farms too.
Exactly, yeah. So now that seems plausible to me. That's why I tell people that story. But again, Ben Stone, if you're watching, or anybody who knows
Is that
Ben Stone,
authority?
please tell us the source of it. What's that?
Is that
Well, that's kind of like that's kind of the start of the state.
Is
Right.
what that
It's-
article is about?
It's
Yeah.
Start of gang, but is gang really authority? Was that really?
They claim to be.
No,
Yeah.
that's all the state is a game.
Gang,
Right,
Yeah.
I know the state
And
is
so-
a gang, but I'm saying,
and so
I don't
basically
equate
what-
the gang with authority.
Basically, what happened was is it started off like Mike said, this gang became more entrenched by taking. They basically set up a bargain with the farmers so that they wouldn't raid them. And so it made it safer for the farmers. It made it safer for the gang, and the gang found it easier to protect the farmers from other gangs. And then over time, one gang conquered another gang and grew into basically a state, and partnered with religion, creating the what am I thinking of?
Theocracy.
Well, no. I was thinking the Divine Right of Kings.
Yeah, there you go.
Mythos. Because I think at some point religion had to have mixed with this proto state in order to form the idea in people's minds that it had legitimate authority.
And
Well, 'cause that
Samuel
was
as well,
authority
right?
at the time.
Samuel, isn't it about the judges, right? So you wanted to
Well,
tie
yeah,
it
and-
biblically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, authority, when I look at authority, people looked at religion and God and as being authority over their lives. And so, yeah, it would be natural for authority to mix with these gangs, then called the, pre-states, where it would be a natural transition to what we now call.
And we can talk about the whole psychology behind religion and the reason why humans created gods in the first place.
I think it does tie in though a little bit. I think
Yeah.
that
It's
I-
a trifecta.
I think
yeah,
that's,
the state, religion, and parenting trifecta.
yeah, because I mean, if you say, well,
Well, I
we-
think the
we-
whole.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I think the whole authoritarian parenting came from the religion state
Right,
apparatus. Yeah,
But I
which then perpetuated it.
early on, I tend to think that it was like, well, they're like, okay, well, so here's our authority because, we're not going to rob you because we're the local gang, and see, we're only going to take so much from you if you just agree to give us this little bit, and we're going to stop the other gangs from coming in. But then somewhere along the line, after a couple of years of this, there's some teenagers, or maybe not even teenagers, maybe it's just some farmers that are over the bullshit, but somewhere along the line I see teenagers involved in this because, because of the general fuck you nature of most teenagers that I know.
Well,
they're
Well, it might have been 8-9-year-olds.
Oh yeah,
because-
exactly.
Because 8-9-year-olds are the teenagers of healthier societies.
Yeah. So, they're sitting there thinking like, well, why the hell do I have to pay these guys money to not attack me? And that seems kind of weird. That seems like bribery. Isn't that just stealing in itself? So, at one point or another, you have to be like, okay, well, so here's
Do you
the
think
thing.
there's a pride issue there then? Like the kids are coming to their parents and saying, "Why are you putting up with this bullshit?" And the
Yeah,
parents
and
are
I
like,
do.
"You know what? I'm your father. That's how it is."
Well,
That does- that maybe
that
parents
does
didn't
sediment
say-
that a
my
little bit,
parents didn't
yeah.
say I'm your father or I'm your mother. They just, well, sweetie, that's just the way it is. I said, no, it's not. I mean, at 8 years old, it really was. I think all of us probably question at a young age. That's why we're here today. But yeah, it's just, and see, I didn't look at them as my authority figure. It's just they.
Oh, they were
that's just-
definitely my parents are definitely an authority figure in my house.
Okay. I just- yeah.
So,
I didn't question that at 8 or 9 years old. I mean, I kind of went with that. I kind of went with that authority like all the way through. I went to university and I was just looking for somebody to tell me what to do, and when I got to that point where there weren't really any answers for that, I was still looking for somebody to tell me to go left instead of going right, and
How'd you get here?
mescaline.
Well, so they were telling me all this authority exists, and that didn't make any sense. And to cement that whole thing that it didn't make any sense, I did some hallucinogens, and that was it. Yeah.
Showed you the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Christy, I think we explained at the beginning of this podcast that he's a Fed.
Right.
So he's immune to all these.
No. But seriously though, I want to speak seriously for a second.
Okay.
So
I've never sold any hallucinogens in my entire life. I'm
listen,
kidding, man. Don't worry about it.
and I've never bought any hallucinogens from anybody here in the
Right,
circle,
that's right, yeah.
except for maybe him over there.
Off camera, of course. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Right? No. So I was 14 years old, and I read I don't even know how I came to this book, but I read The Teachings of Don Juan.
Oh, I've heard that's good. Yeah.
Right, the Yaqui Way. Yeah. So it was published by the University of Berkeley Press. And at that point in my life, I hadn't done any drugs, or I hadn't even drank any alcohol for that matter. But
Just a baby.
I know, I was just a babe. I was just a babe in the lamb's wool, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I read this book, and I had my mind open to different experiences of reality. And up until that point, like, I only had the experience of reality of what was presented to me. And the only separation I had from that was in literature, whether it be from that book or from other books. At the same time, I was reading Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I was also reading, Rufino Tamayo, who was a visual artist from Mexico. And he was actually, I should add, a pro-state artist. He was coming from the same, like, ilk and same time as, like, Diego Rivera and those that were, like, rebelling against the state, but he was very much in line with the state. But it was just an opening of my mind to different experiences of reality. And
Did it crack the egg? Did you start thinking differently at that point in time?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, and you know, the thing that's interesting about it is I did that without any of these hallucinogenic substances that they were discussing or talking about. And what happened was I looked at everything and I was like, whoa, why are things the way that they are? And I mean, I know that sounds really kind of rudimentary, but at the time I was Catholic. I was confirmed in Catholic Church, and I was actually teaching confirmation. So I was like bringing other youths to this conception of reality, and it wasn't until I was about 18 years old when I finally smoked some pot. Like, I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, I smoked some pot and I was like, whoa, okay, everything is not as it seems.
And when you lit the first bowl, was it did Jimi Hendrix instantly start playing? Just like right off the bat, you just like Jimi Hendrix, like
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. No,
okay.
continue with your story. I couldn't help myself.
I know.
Nachos miraculously apparated in his lap.
What I'll say about Jimmy is kind of confluent with the movie White Men Can't Jump.
Okay.
And Wesley Snipes keeps telling Woody Harrelson that he can't hear Jimmy.
Right.
Right. And up to that point, like, I'll keep going with the music. Like, I I was a classically trained pianist. I played lots of music. I played with the Las Vegas Philharmonic.
Oh, awesome.
And I was really in that zone. And without any mind-altering substances, like, I got elevated to another... I mean, I hate saying this on camera because it sounds so ridiculous. Like, I got elevated to another plane.
You stimulated your mind, man, to be really even more stereotypical, right?
I know. I hate this whole discussion.
No, that's fine though. I mean, it's okay to be like, no, you had some psychedelics and it changed your perspective on life. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
That's
Well,
what
before you
supposed
did.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this was all before I ever started experimenting. And I mean, essentially what happened was I started hearing the world differently. And everything became... And where it is right now, like, I mean, everything became so simplistic for me.
Did you question authority at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I questioned authority, and everything became very, very simple for me. And I was like...
That's why they have the drug laws. I just got that.
Thank you.
Know what? Like,
Thank you.
I've been thinking about that.
I did drugs at a young age, and I question things at a young age.
Right.
And it's just...
So what happened to me was, like, before the drugs, because, I mean, believe me, there were plenty of drugs.
Right.
There were a lot of drugs, but before the drugs, what happened was I started hearing things differently, and I was like, why are we here? You know, why? I don't mean like in some esoteric sense, like why are we here as humans? I mean, like, why are we here as the human race? Why are we at this point in time with the things that are going on here? And like at that time, I was remembering being little, and there were trading cards, Topps trading cards, like baseball cards, right? But instead of having like Wade Boggs or Don Mattingly, who were popular at the time, there was Colin Powell, and there was George Bush Sr.
The Gulf War trading cards, I have those somewhere.
Yeah. I still have, dude, hang on to those fucking things.
No, do you want to know? I have somewhere. I did take off the plastic. I'll always regret taking off the plastic, but I have the original Invasion 2003 Gulf War fucking trading cards. Yeah, in the pack. Yeah.
Oh, the 03.
I did take off the plastic, but what are you gonna do?
I'm talking about like 89, 90, like the first Gulf War.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
I mean, there was this
I have
whole
a
like
couple,
Shield
not the whole
Desert
pack.
Storm cards.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There was this whole build up, and I had little like figurines for my Dungeons and Dragons.
No way.
That I like incorporated into Dungeons and Dragons. That it was like the tank with like the 16 missile thing, like, and I mean, this was all becoming a part of my reality, and I was looking at it going, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
Is it one of those things
You know?
where
That's a great question to have.
was it one of those things where you started to think that like maybe more of what you're perceiving as reality is kind of more of an illusion given to you? Because that's kind of what I look at the nature of authority. It's like, I'm not saying that like objective reality doesn't exist, like the fire doesn't exist or the concrete doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that like what you've been given is told is this is what your reality is. You have to work in this. Perhaps some of that is not really exactly. Right. The software versus the hard drive. Like, you know, this is your hardware. Your hardware is the fire exists, the concrete exists, all that. But the software is authority. Wait a minute. Right. That seems a little bit weird. Maybe I can change that a bit, and that is the the program becomes sentient, and somewhere along the line that does tie into robot sex. But maybe we might have time for that. I'm not really sure. So see what we can do with robot sex. But
listen, robot sex aside, what happened to me was this: was I saw all these things.
We still have time for that, I think.
I know. So I saw all these things, and I got really fucking confused, and I was like, where the hell am I? What is reality? And I found myself in college, and I was at a really like politically dissident college. I was at
University of Lebanon,
Berkeley.
No, I'm kidding.
I was at the Berkeley of the East, or as there you go. As
what's that?
Yeah, Wesleyan, as many people back there call it. They call Wesleyan the Berkeley of the East, or Berkeley the Wesleyan of the West, or whatever. But anyway, so I was at this college, and what happened was I thought I knew which way was up, and we came into this week, which was called I can't. It had something to do with like sexual identity. I can't remember what the week was called. It was like, sexual freedom or something like that. But there were these like tags all over the campus that said like attack the heteros, and like I got really like,
wow,
I know,
that's wild. That's like kind of scary.
Right. So I got really like annoyed and like upset and scared by this, and it only took me like a little while before I realized I was like, whoa, they're tagging this because this is their reality. And it like totally just mudded up my brain. Like I was like, holy shit, like the world is not what I thought it was, And like prior to that, I was one who was like, oh yeah, same-sex marriage and everything like that, and I was like on board, but like until I saw like the physical like manifestation of these ideas, I really didn't really feel what I was saying, what I was fighting for, so to speak, and it just like threw me around as far as what authority was and who was in charge, and that was what made me start thinking about what our reality is, and I really think that ties into like where we are now, looking at like what's physically going on in the world, and at the same time understanding like our interpretation of that, because fuck man, like what you read in the news, or even if you like want to subscribe to the
USA Today, because that's a reliable source every time, right?
Yeah.
USA Today. Yeah.
I wasn't even talking about them, but like, I was talking about Al Jazeera. But
fair
like,
enough. There's
really fucking same thing when you talk about it. Like, it's this facade of what's actually going on, and that was when I first was awakened to the idea that like what I thought was reality and what the world was trying to project as reality were two totally different things.
The Matrix.
And I mean, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound all...
Totally.
I hate to sound all Keanu Reeves on that shit,
No,
but like,
totally.
I woke the fuck up and I was like, whoa, I am
You took-
Agent Anderton or whatever.
You took the red pill. You decided chicken wasn't worth it, right? You know.
You know
Well,
what? Like,
you
if I
know-
could do it over again, I'd take the fucking blue pill, and I wouldn't even be sitting here right now, and you wouldn't even be
don't
looking
say
at my
that.
sexy fucking face. That's it. I mean,
Don't
so
say
like,
that.
hey, you're happy right now because I took the red pill, and
Yeah, no, we're very happy.
you get this.
You get this.
You get this.
The intensity that is Patrick.
Listen,
Just real quick,
listen.
I think along the same lines, language is very important too.
Yeah.
People, for instance, the American government started bombing Libya, or not Libya, Syria,
Yeah.
this last couple of days.
That's not a country.
And
whatever.
you'll hear people walk in and be like we're bombing Libya, or we're bombing Syria. No, we're not doing anything. Some people.
Did you get a backup call from somebody in France that says we needed some help and
Yeah, exactly.
Doug Stanhope,
Yeah.
same sort of thing, yeah.
And I can never remember this word, but it's the word that the German SS used. Amtssprache.
Yeah.
And basically it's this language of authority. Whereas, well, if somebody else told me to do it, then I'm not personally responsible.
No, sir.
You know?
Bureaucratic speech.
Like,
But-
let me just say, since we're on camera, I have nothing to do with the war against ISIS. IL or whatever.
IS, ISIL, ISIS,
ISIS.
Islamic State.
I really like ISIS because I
I'll
like the
CIA
tie-in.
I'll CIA
I like the tie-in to like the ancient Egyptian
Yeah.
like thing,
Nice.
like
It's creepy and weird.
ISIS.
Well, unfortunately,
You know,
But so if we're talking about like nature of authority and all that sort
And
of stuff,
robots
Well-
have authority.
well, if they become sentient and they have the ability to do their own thing, would you have the
I want
authority
one
to
that has
say
authority.
if you if you could have a robot
an
that
alpha
that
robot.
would be sentient on itself, would you be able to have sex with it? You know, I mean, if it was sentient, it could make its own decisions.
and would it be rape if you were the programmer?
Ooh, we're getting into something deep.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, though.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to approach that subject tonight.
Damn.
Maybe we'll get into robot sex again next week,
Next time.
but not tonight.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Nice.
Rats. Have a good one.
Have a good weekend.